Hello and welcome to, I guess, the redone version of Girls of Gaming. If you were actually somebody who used to take and listen to the podcast, well, thank you for listening to the podcast. If you didn't, well, no big surprise, not many people did. So, I'm just going to explain that basically what this is going to be. It's going to be Girls of Gaming. That's what I'm going to call it. It's going to be Girls of Gaming. And if you were somebody that actually listened to the podcast, you would know that usually I have a counterpart, which was my best friend Danielle. But currently Danielle has been extremely busy because she decided to have another baby, and her baby is about 9 months old now. So, yeah. I'm basically going to do some game reviews. I usually take and try to throw in an older game for, people with budget-friendly needs. And then maybe I'll throw in a movie review. And I'll usually take and touch on some hot topics, that involves gaming, consoles, things of that nature. So, yeah, let's go ahead and get started. So, one of the games that I have recently got was The Last of Us. Now, if you haven't read up on this, or if you haven't seen any trailers for it, well, then you must live out in the mountains somewhere. Because, this is pretty much a big game right now. It's actually supposed to be up for nomination for Game of the Year. Now, in all honesty, to me, this was like one of the better games that I have played this year thus far. I had wind up playing Dead Space 3, and I had gotten that for Valentine's Day. And nothing against Dead Space 3, but it seems like the games are getting relatively easier with the Dead Space games, because I remember, it just being crazy hard in the first game. But I think that has to do with the fact that the games themselves, if you've ever noticed that whenever you're playing them now and you go to pick the mode that you're going to play, usually it's certain games that tell you that when you're sitting there doing beginner mode, that's for nobody that's ever touched a video game ever in their life. And then when you go to let's say the easy mode is the easy mode. And then the normal mode, to me, is actually the easy mode. And then it's the hard mode is now the regular normal mode. And I mean, because, I remember, back in the day, whenever I played Silent Hill, and I started Silent Hill out on normal, and that was actually it wasn't, I'm going to say, difficult, but, it challenged you to where it's you're running through the sewer and, you've got no health, you can't find any health, so it's you don't know what you're going to do because, all those creatures were coming up after you. So it's what I did, I just booked it through there, and then it's I went up the ladder as fast as I could, and then I'm in the carnival area. Which I think they only give you one health pack there, and then you've got nurses coming after you. So for me, it was just a straight shot right to Sybil to take and try to deal with Sybil. Anyway, back to The Last of Us. Now, The Last of Us, I did really like the game. I really highly enjoyed the game. But to me, if I'm going to have to take and rate it as, stars, or 10 stars, 5 stars, whichever, I would have to give it about an 8. Now, I do like the game. I'm not going to say really too much negative about the game, because the gameplay is fairly easy. If you've ever played, what was that, Uncharted. It plays pretty similar to Uncharted. It's relatively simple to, learn, know what you're doing. So, gameplay is fairly easy. The story breakdown is, it's one of the more original storylines because it's not supposed to be zombies. They're kind of like people that have a really bad yeast infection, because it's supposed to be fungus spores that you wind up taking and getting this disease from, and that's what mutates you. And you wind up escorting a little girl named Ellie to, this pack of rebels who, are supposed to take and help her, and then realize that they can find an antidote for the fungal infection. So given, the storyline's relatively good, the gameplay's relatively good. It's one of those really addictive games. Now, Sony at first actually had a big issue with saving. Now, I don't know if I was affected by it or not, but I know that I had started out the game in the hard mode, and then it just automatically switched to easy. So that kind of irked me, and then finding out that there's been saving issues pretty much since the game started, and you have to download this patch to, get it to rectify itself. So, that wind up happening. Like I said, gameplay's fairly easy. You can really pick it up. You have choices of how you want to take and you want to play the game. Whether you want to be somebody that's going to go gung-ho and kill everything in sight, or if you want to take and be somebody that's a little bit more conscious of what you're doing, that you can take and pretty much just avoid majority of the fights, except for certain fights that's obvious that you've got to do. So, they have things like that for the gameplay, and you can pretty much sneak around and just do sneak attacks on some of the zombies, some of the creatures, or the manifestations, whatever you want to call them. So, it's really good. I really did enjoy it. It was a really good game. So the only thing I really, really didn't like the game is that pretty much you've only got one choice, I know that a lot of games, there was choices to where you could take and you could make, the right choice, and then you would get, the good ending, and then it's you would make another choice where you would get the, okay ending, and then, all the bad choices you made, you wound up getting a terrible ending, and I remember games like that, but this is not one of those games. This is kind of just no matter what you do, this game's going to turn out this way. This is going to be the ending of the game regardless. I really don't care for that so much, and as far as the multiplayer goes, I really haven't messed with the multiplayer because, in all honesty, I kind of suck online. I'm not going to lie. Wind up trying to play Halo online, and, I am so good during gameplay whenever it comes to my games that I get somewhat of an ego thinking, oh, I'm going to be awesome, at multiplayer. And then I suck, and it makes me feel terrible, so I usually don't do it too often. Usually I was sitting there trying to play, the Gears of War online, and then I was playing, the Halo games online, and, I'm getting wiped out by an 8-year-old. And it's not that I don't know what I'm doing, it's pretty much just the fact that I don't know, I really don't take and check out my mini-maps. So, just saying that if you decide that you want to take and try to get in on a game with me, or whichever, I'm terrible. So, not gonna lie. And, anyway, on to the next subject. So, a movie I pretty much recently went to go see was Now You See Me, which was actually surprisingly pretty decent. It was a little better than what I was actually expecting, because I was expecting it to be a little, but, it turned out pretty good. It's about, I think it's 4 magicians. Yeah, it's 4 magicians, and, they pretty much go do these wild-ass magic tricks, and they steal money and they give it back to the people that it was actually stolen from. But it's big businesses that they're mainly going after. So, it turned out to be a pretty good storyline. It surprised me at the end. So, it was just a really good storyline. So, I would suggest going and seeing that, because I'm noticing in some of my reviews I give away too many details about storylines. So, I'm trying not to do that anymore. So, I'm just going to say that it was a fairly good story, fairly good movie. You should definitely go check it out. Another thing I want to take and touch on, I'm trying to go through this as fast as I can, because my first video is 45 minutes and I can't put that up on YouTube. So the next thing I'm going to touch on is basically what everybody's thinking about, the Xbox One or the PlayStation 4. Now, if you haven't been keeping up to date on what's going on with the Xbox One wound up revealing itself, several weeks ago, at the one convention. I'm terrible right now because I'm drawing a blank and all I can think of is E3. But when they wind up taking and revealing what the console is going to be like, basically it's going to be a console that's going to take over the entire TV, you know, your entire entertainment, everything along those lines. So when they take and they do that, you've got to actually make sure that you get on at least once in a 24-hour period if you want to take and do any kind of offline gaming. Now, they're doing this because they don't want people to take and be able to hack the games. Now, their games itself, they're talking about, you know, where you're not going to be able to trade in, or you're not going to be able to sell your games unless it's approved through the manufacturer. Now, I don't know about you, but, you know, you're pretty much shelling out about $64 a game. And then, if you actually play the game, you beat the game, the highest amount that I have actually gotten on a game that I pretty much just owned and then beat like in a couple of days and then decided to try to trade it in. The trade-in value was about $40, where your cash value is maybe about $25. So I mean, it's kind of like, it sucks, you know, because if you're somebody that's a little bit, you know, tight on your funding, then, you know, you're pretty much SOL, because it's like, you know, I don't have $60 just to spill out on games every couple weeks. So that was one of the issues. And, you know, now they're kind of confronting that with Microsoft, and one of the comments that Microsoft, you know, CEO had said was, oh, we do have a console for people who don't have the internet. He goes, it's called the Xbox 360. So, I mean, with a comment like that, you know, it's not really customer friendly to me, because it's like, you know, their attitude's kind of like, who gives a shit if you can do it or not. And then it was like, you know, reading up on another article where one of the gentlemen, he was a complete D-bag and said that, you know, oh, well, I would never take and buy a house in West Virginia, so what do I care? You know, and then it was something along the lines of, you know, having internet access during storms, and not everybody does it. And he was just making kind of asinine comments about, you know, pretty much just not caring. And to me, that's kind of like a dick move. Most likely I'm going to end up probably buying the PS4, you know, but the PS4 is also having multiple issues as well with, like, the online gameplay that they plan on doing. And then, you know, of course it's not going to have the backwards, you know, capabilities, or, you know, yeah, you know what I mean. So you're not going to be able to play any of your PlayStation 3 games on it. So, you know, Sony's having issues with theirs too, but they plan on taking it back to the drawing board and trying to fix it before they're actually going to do a release on it. And I think Microsoft is actually apologizing for some of the comments that were actually made, and claiming that these people aren't representing them, even though technically they work for them. So we will see what happens with that. Most likely I'm going to end up getting the PlayStation 4 because, one, it's like $100 cheaper, and then on top of that, you know, you don't need to have, you know, an online account, you know, to where you're paying out, you know, $9 a month to actually have access to your internet. So that's probably going to take and be a big marketing ploy for Sony as well. So we will see where that goes. I am about 2 minutes ahead, so yeah, that's good. And I think I'm gonna leave it off here. I've got music on my profile that is actually by a band named S.I.N. The song is called Kiss, and I'm gonna put the information to find this band and purchase music if you like. You know, if you like the video, I think I'm gonna try to keep doing them as often as I can. It might be about once a month. It might be every couple weeks. I don't know. And hopefully I can take and get some people on here to take and talk. Bye. Hope you have a nice weekend.